Hello, everybody. I wanted to put out a message to all of my fellow online book readers. This is also going to be a test for both my updated microphone and the new camera we have. So I'm going to be testing out. Let me know how the quality is with both. I should also apologize for rarely making videos. Also, my wife and I are looking into moving, so we've been pretty busy. But as of the last video, I told you about my writing website, and I've concentrated on short stories. I am now expanding one of those into a novel, and this will be my first. It very unexpectedly, really in just kind of a moment, I just saw the whole thing. I knew this had to be a much longer story, and I can see the whole thing, and I'm obsessing over it in a very good and fun way. So that's coming. But to the subject at hand, message to fellow online book readers. I've got a few notes here. I've had some messages sent to me, compliments by and large, when I read books and stories and letters, whatever, thanking me for simply reading. And that's my intention. So I want to say thank you for that. Thank you as always, anyways, for listening to anything I do, anything I read. I have noticed when I listen myself to a lot of books, whether they're epic, long novels, short stories, memoirs, whatever, a lot of people have the same way of going about their reading, and I just feel like this needs to be addressed. I don't want to just single out LibriVox. I appreciate what they're doing, but I lose track of the story when it's multiple readers, and their voices are different. Some of them are not quite suited to the material at hand. Some of them are very much so, and then we want to hear that one person. It's kind of like watching a movie and then you see a commercial and you're just jarred out of the story. And then you're expected to just fall back into it when the commercial's over. It has that same ultimate effect. There's a thing that people do. I've noticed this a lot with teens. And I hope you don't take this as a kind of an insulting thing, because that's not my intention. Where they'll read something and they sound as if it's good enough to just that their eyes move word by word by word, and there, I've got it out. Now that's done. If you don't understand what you're reading, or if you're bored with it, we're bored. We're confused. So pretty simple. Just be aware that the cadence in the voice goes something like this. And just put whatever words you want in that thing. That's what I hear a lot. And it's like a boring song. Just read. Now that said, I also want to thank the very young readers who take the time to do this, because the very fact that you're interested in reading and wanting to share that with others is commendable. And I'm grateful for that. I just want to point out, well, that leads me to my larger point, which goes to everybody of all ages. And I know my voice may not be perfectly suitable for the things I choose to read, so I rely on you to let me know that. Well, it's really the same thing, just expanded. People do this in different ways. What I pointed out with that cadence, that tends to be with younger people, but with older people reading, there seems to be a tendency to be a voice actor. With men, they tend to try to sound deeper than they actually are. Again, just read. Do that kind of thing when, if it feels called for with a certain character. You know what I'm saying. Um, I remember listening to I can't remember what it was, something by Mark Twain, where somebody young, probably late teens, early to mid 20s, and I've got a Mark Twain story here to give you an example of this. Often when you listen to something by Mark Twain, there's an older Southern gentleman will read this, and he sounds very natural. There's a certain kind of thing that you feel like that might have how it was. That might have been how it was read when it was originally written in the 19th century. Now, this young guy decided to kind of make fun of that style, not in a fun-loving way, in a insulting, let me see if I can get away with this kind of a way. This is from my example here. Is from Mark Twain's The Innocents Abroad. This book is a record of a pleasure trip. If it were a record of a solemn scientific expedition, it would have about it that gravity, that profundity, and that impressive incomprehensibility. You get what I'm doing here, right? So he was trying to pass that off as if that was his natural cadence in his voice, and this quietly witty but loving. Anyways, you get my point. And so that feels like an insult when we hear that, because we don't know what you're doing with that. Just read. Preface. This book is a record of a pleasure trip. If it were a record of a solemn scientific expedition, it would have about it that gravity, that profundity, and that impressive incomprehensibility, which are so proper to works of that kind, and withal so attractive. That's my natural voice. I may feel a tendency to bend it slightly, depending on the flavor of the narrative, but so far I don't. I know generally what Mark Twain does in his works, so I already know I'm in for a kind of that quietly witty and fun ride. That's my main point. Just read. Understand what you're reading. If you don't, I should make that point too. There have been works I've begun recording and gotten about halfway through, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, and thought, I shouldn't be doing this. There was one work where there were far too many French phrases in there. Now, I can do most Latin. French, I tend to look it up, to pause, to look it up, make sure I get it right. But when there's too many, it's not a natural language for me. And it probably shows. You can hear examples of that in the reading I did for The Mystery of the Cathedrals by, that's on my channel. And I hesitated, considering whether I would continue with that or not, but I felt it was a very important work, and nobody had done it yet on YouTube. We don't want to just hear words marching past. We want to understand. In order to do that, we need you to understand what you're reading. That's really the main point I wanted to make. Please have a love of storytelling itself and reading. And just take that with you and trust yourself and just go with it. Just read. Again, I want to thank everybody who does put in a sincere effort to doing it, though. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted, that happens to me still. Even if you hear a lot of insults or negative reviews and you love what you're doing, you don't see what the problem is. I want you to know you are appreciated. The very fact of what you're doing. This was just something I've been thinking about, because I do listen to as many readings. In fact, I probably listen to more than I do. I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home, so I like to let my brain wander into this stuff while I work. So it's important to me. Let me know how the audio is with this, how the video is with our new camera. Perhaps you can hear my cat snoring in the background. Maybe not. We'll see. Let me know how this sounds too. My new microphone. I like it a lot. Take care, everybody. See you soon.